Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am doing a video that may be considered by some to be a little on the late side, but that's okay. I wanted to film this anyway. This is tier ranking every book, that I read in 2024. I read 75 books, a nice crisp clean number, so I'm gonna be ranking them today. I figured that it would be appropriate to wear my Valaris t-shirt. I never thought I would be somebody who wore a book t-shirt like about a series like this, but alas, here we are. So let's jump into the tiers here. The tippy top is Where Have You Been All My Life? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, these books are the loves of my life, pretty much. Next we have New Favorite. Again, all of these I think are pretty self-explanatory. Really good, but not quite there. Good. That was good. Next one's Fine, which I feel like good and fine have two totally different connotations to them. Fine kind of has more of a negative connotation. It's like, I wish you were better, you were just fine. And then we have Forgettable. Honestly, most of the books I read, I forget most of them, so this probably will be a pretty full category by the end of this. And lastly, we have What Is This? Like, it's not necessarily that I hated these books or I want them out of my head or I wish I hadn't read them. It's just like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I'll stipulate that more as we go through the books. So let's go ahead and get started. Also, side note, I chose to do the portrait version of the thumbnails for this because, I don't know, I feel like it looks prettier, but it may crowd up this tier ranking list very quickly. So the first book I have on this list is the Warriors series, book number 6, The Darkest Hour by Erin Hunter. I'm gonna put this in new favorite. I mean, it's not a new favorite because I read this series when I was in elementary school and absolutely adored them, but I would say that this series is a favorite. So it's not a new favorite, just a favorite. If you haven't read the Warrior Cat series, it's so endearing and has like surprisingly great plot lines and great characters and surprisingly also well written. It's about warrior cats. What more could you want? Next we have, I'm already regretting the landscape image or portrait image. Next we have Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco. This book, I really enjoyed a lot, more than a lot of the reviews for it on Goodreads. So I'm gonna put this one in really good, but not quite there. Like, I wouldn't say it's a new favorite, but I really did enjoy it quite a lot. Next we have Bride by Ali Hazelwood. You know what? I'm gonna switch this, I'm so sorry, to square images because it's just, the images are too big. Anyway, Bride by Ali Hazelwood, this was fine. Like, I have another Ali Hazelwood in here, I think. I've been having a rocky relationship with her books lately. I've loved her earlier publications, like Love Theoretically, Love Hypothesis, her novellas, but I haven't really enjoyed the last 2 books I've read from her. There's also a novella in here that we'll get to later, but this was fine. I mean, it's cool that she's dipping her toe into paranormal romance, but I don't know, this was fine. It's about a vampire and a werewolf, like, I don't know. Anyway, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest, I think is her name. This was surprising to me. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it in really good, but not quite there. It's hard for me to rank books that are about psychology or memoirs or stuff like that. But this had a lot of things in it that I bookmarked and I highlighted. So yeah, it was really good. And it's very popular, so I definitely recommend you check it out. I also love this motif of climbing a mountain to symbolize conquering yourself and getting better and going to your next level, so I really like that a lot. Next we have Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This again was fine. I think I was an outlier with this one because almost everyone else seems to really love this, but for me it was just fine. It's an adventure story. Love Brandon Sanderson, the person. He's a great writer, but this was just fine. Actor Age Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is book number 3 in the Brown Sisters trilogy. This one was good. I thought it was good. It's a romance. I love Talia Hibbert's humor in her books. I think she writes great characters, and she writes more about like not your typical romance leads, if that makes sense, and love interests. I would recommend this series. I think it was very cute. Next we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. My first impulse was to put it in fine, but I'm gonna put it in good. It's probably, I wouldn't say it's my least Emily Henry, but there was just something about it that it rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know, so it was good. It's very popular. I'm sure most of you have read it or at least heard about it. Next we have A Dangerous Path, book 5 in the Warrior Cat series, again by Erin Hunter. Again, new favorite. I love this series. I don't need to say that again. Next we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. I would say this was really good, but not quite there. I really enjoyed this book. I read it while I was in the UK over the summer. The pacing was great. The vibes were great, the characters were great. I guess the only reason why it's not higher for me is because I didn't necessarily gravitate towards the love interest that much. He's not the kind of guy that I feel like I personally would go for, but definitely recommend. This one seems to be a favorite amongst a lot of people. Next we have Human Design by Jenna Zoe. Again, this was good. It's hard for me to rank it because it's sort of specialized knowledge. It's sort of in a niche. It's about human design and charts and stuff like that, so it was good. Next we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is book 1 in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I enjoyed this. This had one spicy scene in it that, like, it was something. In a good way. I would say this one was really good, but not quite there. I'd probably rank it on the higher end of my favorite romances, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Next we have Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is book 2 in that same series. This one is probably my favorite of the series, and I also thought it was really, really well done. The way that Talia Hibbert wrote this, the characters, the humor. I loved the main love interest. Zephyr, I think is his name. So it's not a new favorite though, so I'm gonna put it in really good, but not quite there yet, but I'm gonna put it in front of Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Next we have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is the first book I read in 2024, and I remember at the time I kept seeing Sylvia Plath quotes and I was like, oh, I really identify with that. I should read The Bell Jar. This is considered a modern day classic, I think. I would put it in good. It was very depressing. It's about a woman living in the 1950s, and obviously the 1950s were not a good time for women. So it's about her essentially being a woman who is experiencing things that the time period she lives in doesn't have the means to help her or explain them to her. She really suffers from depression in this book. But it's a classic, and of course I recommend people read it. Next we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This was good. I wouldn't say that it was a new favorite. It was creepy. It's a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher, I think. Lots of mushrooms, if you're into that. Not the psychedelic kind, the actual kind. Next we have Unmasking Autism by Devon Price. I wanted to read more about autism in general and just become more educated on the topic. I know some autistic people, I know a lot of creators are autistic, and I think it's really a beautiful mind and a beautiful way of living. So I wanted to learn more. I would put this in good. Again, like, you have to take my ratings of memoirs, psychology books like this with a grain of salt, because it's hard for me to rank them or give them a star rating. So I definitely recommend this though if you want to learn more about it. I don't remember though if the author was criticized for their support of a certain organization for autism that has really come under fire lately. So like, you know, look into that. I don't remember though, so I'm like totally sorry if this book is supported, like the author supports that organization. I don't know though, so I would definitely look into that if you're interested. The next is What My Bones Know by Stephanie Sue, right? Let me make sure I'm saying that right. I always get her last name wrong. Damn it, Stephanie Fu. I don't know why I do that. Every time I talk about this book, I say Stephanie Sue. Stephanie Fu. Amazing book. Really good, but not quite there. This is all about complex PTSD and this author's journey with trying to heal from that and what she learned. Next we have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This was good. I'm surprised to say it because Colleen Hoover, not my favorite author. I've only read 2 of her books, but I've watched these video essays about her other books like Verity and November 9 and some others, and she's a contentious author, excuse me. A lot of people have opinions on her and her writing, but she's very popular, so you know what, good for her. But this one surprised me. I would say between the 2 Colleen Hoover books I've read, It Starts With Us and It Ends With Us, this one's my favorite of the 2. Next we have The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. This book was very sad. It deals with grief a lot. It's about a vampire who's living through the centuries and is trying to figure out how to deal with losing people. Beautiful prose. Like, Jacqueline Holland is a fantastic writer. I think at the time I was really taken by it, but looking back on it now, I would say this was really good, but not quite there yet. But just for the reason that, you know how like when you watch a movie that's really intense or sad and it's like, it's a beautiful story, right? Like, I don't know if you remember Moonlight when it came out a few years ago. Very intense, very depressing, excellently made, point made, story is great, but you wouldn't want to watch it again. That's kind of how I feel about this book. Next we have 98 Sabres by Elizabeth Broadbent. I don't remember this super well. I read it so fast because I was asked to review it, but I'm gonna put it in good because I remember enjoying the parts that I do remember. Next we have a book that I never get the title right. It's the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. I'm so sorry. This is the first one I'm putting in What Is This? I talked about this book before. It's very convoluted. I don't think it's funny. Me and Brandon Sanderson's humor just don't really mesh. I wanted to like it so much because the concept was so interesting. It's about like parallel or like dimensions you can travel to and you can own them, like you can go back in time basically, but it just I don't know. Brandon, what was this? I might try to reread it at some point. We'll see. Next we have 1922 by Stephen King. This one I remember being very well acquainted with disgust and disgust is a basic human emotion. It's something that falls into the horror category very well. Like, horror is either there to scare you or to disgust you, and this definitely disgusted me. I'm gonna put it in good because I thought it was good. I think Stephen King does very well with novellas, so I enjoyed it, but like, again, it disgusted me. And when things disgust me, I tend to be like, okay, you can stay over there. Next we have My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. Okay, I'm gonna put this one in forgettable because I don't remember a single thing in this book other than the vampire character saying that he was sad that the love interest was wearing a bikini. That's all I remember, and that really turned me off. I also remember the ending to this had one of the weirdest, most convoluted, like, came out of left field endings. I really didn't like it now that I think about it, but I'm gonna put it in forgettable because I don't remember much about it. Next we have Merriment and Mayhem by Alexandria Bellafleur, I think is how you say her name. This was part of a series under the Mistletoe collection. This came out around Christmas time. These are short novellas about cozy romance, so to speak, but it has Christmas elements to it. This one, it's forgettable. I don't really even remember it. I think it was a firefighter. I think I rated it 3 stars. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, next we have my book. I'm gonna put this in new favorite because obviously I wrote it. I'm very proud of it. I love it. If you want to check it out, I will have the links to it in the description. It is a cozy small town, friends to lovers, he falls first, cozy romance. I feel like you need a book to give you a warm hug or give you like an escape during these crazy times that we're in. I definitely recommend it. I could put it obviously in Where Have You Been All My Life, but that would just feel a little much. I don't know. In my heart, this book is at the tippy top of the list. Next we have What is that? Okay, this one's Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson. This is a novella that is in the Stormlight Archive series. Forgettable. I don't remember that much about this, except I think there's a character called Lift, and she has like a vine power and she can like surf on the ground, kind of. I don't remember, so forgettable. The Crimson Moth. This is a book I totally forgot I read in 2024. I really liked this. I'm gonna put it in really good, but not quite there. I was surprised by this. I really enjoyed it. It was well written. The suspense was there. I liked the characters. And I will definitely be reading the sequel whenever it comes out. It's about a witch and a witch hunter, basically. So it's like real enemies to lovers, you know, and not the fake kind that is in so many books. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Next we have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas, and to my total surprise, I'm gonna put it in new favorite. I have had a rocky history with this series. First book was good. I did not like the second book. Loved the third book, mostly for the found family aspects, and I thought Sarah J Maas did a really good job of weaving everything together. So definitely a new favorite. This book made me feel like I had my own found family, or like it identified a feeling in me that I wanted, you know, and that's what stories are for. So definitely a new favorite. Next we have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This was good. I enjoyed it. I, you know, remember at the time reading it and being like, wow, this is really good. But thinking about it now, it's a little formulaic, but Rachel Gillig did it in a way that was so good that I think this is way better than most romantasy. I don't even think this is romantasy, but very popular duology and really, really good. But I'm still just gonna put it in the good category. Or you know, no, I'm gonna put it in really good, actually. What a twist. Okay, next we have A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas, and this might be crazy for some people, but I'm gonna put it in new favorite. I loved this. I remember reading this. It was cold outside. I had a really cozy blanket. The fire was going. I had a glass of wine. This was a nice respite from the world. This was the winter special. Cozy. They're exchanging gifts. Yes, maybe they fuck in the sky, but it was really good, and I don't know why people don't like this one. Sometimes a book can be just for the vibes, you know, and this one delivered. Next we have All by My Elf by Olivia Dade. This is going straight to What Is This? This is honestly my least favorite book of 2024. This was, and I don't like speaking about books this way because I am an author myself, and I would feel so bad if an author ever heard me speak badly about their book. I don't mean it as an attack to like you as an author. It's amazing that you wrote a book. Keep going. Like, I love that. But this book was, it's a novella. It's part of that Mistletoe series for Christmas. Was so pointless and so weird. There was no logic to the story. I didn't like the characters. There was a big question mark over my head the entire time I was reading it. What was this? Why write this? Okay, next we have another Ali Hazelwood, Check and Mate. This was fine. Ali Hazelwood lately just, I don't know what it is about her writing. I love that she's taking risks. That's so important. But this one was just like, I didn't like the humor in it. I think there were a lot of like butthole jokes, which I was like, why? I didn't like the romance. I don't know. It's very popular. A lot of people liked it. It's considered YA. This is her only YA book. Okay, next we have The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I love some of Alex E. Harrow's writing, and I am indifferent to other parts of it, and I flat out don't like this book. So I'm going to put it in, am I really gonna put it in What Is This? I don't know. There's just something about this book that I just did not like. I was rolling my eyes. I couldn't wait to finish it. In fact, I didn't finish the last like 100 pages, or I was like literally just like skimming it because I was like, oh my god, like let me just finish this. I don't care about Juniper, Thorn, whatever her name is. I don't care about the cutesy like each sister is named a different herb or something like that. To quote Family Guy, shallow and pedantic. But it's not though. Like Alex E. Harrow is such a good writer. Maybe I should reread it sometime and give it another shot, but for now it's going in What Is This? Now, complete 180, Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, new favorite. I loved the romance between Elm and, I keep wanting to call her Renesmee from Twilight, but that's not her name. Iane, that was her name. Loved this one. This one wrapped the series up so nicely. So, like, in my opinion, far and above the first one. The first one's still amazing, but this one was like so good. So good. I loved the romance between these two. And the magic in this was great too. It was more fleshed out. There was suspense. Great book. Good job, Rachel Gillig. Honestly, like, hats off to you. And now another 180, All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. Is that her name? Yeah, I got that right. What is this? What is this? Again, like I've said this before, you can always count on me to have a contrary opinion. This was 600 pages of slow burn, grumpy man who's way too grumpy, and like depression. This says it's a slow burn, but at some point the fire burns out. You know, I regret reading it. Do I really? I just said that. Do I feel that way? I just didn't like it. And again, this is a very popular romance book, but it just wasn't for me. Okay, next we have Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, new favorite. I adored Oathbringer primarily because I love Dalinar Kholin, who is one of the 3 main POVs in this series. I'm not going to try to explain the Stormlight Archives because it is very intricate and in-depth. This book's 1,300 pages. Not gonna go there, but I loved getting to know more about Dalinar. I love that he's flawed. I love that he is honorable and strong. He's a daddy, you know, like, you know what it is. Like, loved this book so much. Next we have Dracula in Love by Karen Essex. If you've been watching my channel, you know. I'm not gonna talk about it again, I promise. Yeah, where have you been all my life? Look, like, the first 95% of this book, I was blown away. I was like, oh my god, how did this author know that this is what I wanted? And then it all went to shit. It's a Dracula retelling from Mina Harker's perspective. That's all I'll say about it. It's surprisingly well written, in my opinion. I need to reread it because I don't know if I would still feel the same, but this is the first book that's going in Where Have You Been All My Life. It's that serious, guys. Ugh, I need to shake Dracula in Love off of me. Okay, next we have Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. This was good. Bit odd that a vampire was like haunting a very remote, low population town in Austria, but you know what? You do you, Carmilla. Like, go for it. This is very cool though, because this was written in the 1800s, so it was kind of ahead of its time because it's kind of sapphic. I love vampire stories because, especially ones that come out of the 1800s, because they directly deal with repressed sexuality and sexual desire, and it manifests in the form of a vampire, and it's usually dark and gothic, and I love that. This was a shorter book. I would love a modern retelling of this. I'm sure there are some. If you know of any, let me know down in the comments. Next we have The Hating Game by Sally. Next we have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I'm torn on this one because I remember I read this in a day. Like, I devoured it. This was fine. It was fine. It was fine. I'm gonna leave it at that. This is like the quintessential enemies to lovers book, right? Everybody brings this one up when they talk about enemies to lovers. They are into each other from the beginning. Like, if you're gonna give me enemies to lovers, give me enemies to lovers. Like, their family killed someone in your family. That's real enemies to lovers, not like, we have banter at the office and like, ugh, he's so annoying. Merry Ever After, again, by Tessa Bailey. Another one in the mistletoe thing. Forgettable. I don't remember anything about this book. And I guess that's really speaking to the nature of these novellas, right? Because I don't think, they're just meant to be light Christmas festive stories. They're not supposed to be hard-hitting. They're not supposed to make you question life or why you feel the way you feel. They were supposed to be light and fluffy, and some of them delivered, some of them did not. But that's why they're forgettable, because none of these really connected to anything within me that felt, the true meaning of Christmas. Next we have Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. New favorite. Again, a book that surprised me. I loved it. Very important book in classics, I think. A bit contentious, a bit controversial. I think it's widely a misunderstood book, which is probably why I love the main character and I love the story, because I have often felt misunderstood and people always hate the main character, but he's just a kid who doesn't know how to connect with people. He doesn't know how to communicate what he needs, and he's been through a lot. And I say justice for Holden. Next we have Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. This was good. I remember liking it. It's a shorter book. It's a retelling of, I guess, Rapunzel in a way, but T. Kingfisher wants you to know that neither of these main characters are attractive. They're both ugly. Okay. Again, you know what's coming if you have watched my book content. The Angel's Game, Carlos Ruiz-Zafón. This is going to the very tippy top of Where Have You Been All My Life. This is my new favorite book of all time. At least, like, it's neck and neck with, like, Dracula and Phantom of the Opera. I reread this book. I want to read it again. Just a masterclass in writing, creating worlds and characters, suspense, romance, everything that I would want in a book. Please read it. I need more people to have read it so I can speak to you about this book. It's book 2 in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. Technically it could be a standalone, but you should probably read the series because they're brilliant. Next we have another Carlos Ruiz-Zafón book, which is The Prisoner of Heaven, and this is gonna go into Where Have You Been All My Life also, and I'm gonna put it right next to The Angel's Game. This is a shorter book in this series. I think it's only like 200 something pages. Beautifully written. It made me cry. I mean, what else is there to say? Did I say it's the third book in this series? I think I did. Yeah, it's the third book in this series. Next we have Secrets of a Charmed Life by Suzanne Meisner. This one surprised me. I'm gonna surprisingly put it in really good but not quite there. There was something about it that I still remember the story. And every time I think about it, I think fondly of it. You know, I don't normally enjoy stories about World War II. It's kind of, I feel like, an overdone topic these days, but I thought it was really sweet. It's about these two sisters who lose each other and how they if they find each other or not throughout time, and there's a reporter who's telling one of the sisters' stories. Next we have Becoming the Dark Prince by Carrie Maniscalco. This is a novella in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. It's after escaping from Houdini. This was good. I'm gonna put it in good because, yeah, it's just like when an author is writing a series that's popular and people want more to read, right? So I'm sure this was written because people were like, we want more of, hell is his name? Thomas, you know? So Carrie Maniscalco wrote it and it was good. Next we have Enchanted to Meet You by Meg Cabot. Meg Cabot is the woman who wrote The Princess Diaries. Very well-known author. This book is weird because it has stuck with me for some weird reason, even though when I read it at the time, I didn't like it. I thought it was a bit simplistic, but for whatever reason, I think about this book still from time to time. I don't understand it. I can't give you an explanation, but I'm going to put it surprisingly in good. Do I make sense? No. This is a romance. I liked the title. I liked the purple. I assume that Taylor Swift is an inspiration in that. Yeah, it's about like a magical town, I guess, and there's a curse on it, but there's not really a curse. It's like really fluffy. I don't know how else to explain it. Next we have In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. This is book 2 in the Love Light Farm series. This was good. Typical romance. Nothing as good as the first one, but this is definitely a solid series, and I can't wait to finish the series. I have 2 books left. Next we have Only Santa's in the Building, which I think this one is about 2 tenants in the same building who like have the hots for each other, but neither of them knew that the other liked them. So they finally get together at Christmas. Again, this is another of the Mistletoe novellas. I'm actually going to put this one in good. I thought this one was sweet. Okay, and now we have the last, I think, of all the novellas. I read all of them. This one is by Ellie Hazelwood. Easily the best out of all 5. The main love interest was a bit much. much was a bit obsessive. Like, he has a drawer full of photos of the main love interest, but I admire his devotion, I guess. This was good. It's not like at the lowest end of the good. Like, if I had to, it would definitely be in front of Only Santa's in the Building. It had cozy elements. I don't know. There's a snowstorm. She gets stuck with this guy. Out of the last 3 books I've read by Ali Hazelwood, Bride, Check and Mate, and Cruel Winter with You, Cruel Winter with You is my favorite of the 3. Next we have Challenger Deep by Neil Shusterman. This was fine. I remember rating this like 1 star, and that's because this book just wasn't really for me. I thought it was one thing, but it was something else. This is like an allegory about mental health and this young boy and how he's dealing with it. And so he comes up with these characters in his mind. He's in a hospital dealing with schizophrenia, I think. Using the Mariana Trench, I think that's what it is, which is like the deepest point on Earth as like metaphor, I guess, for that mental health. Like, I was probably way too harsh on it, but it was fine. Maybe it was the time in my life I was reading it, I don't know. Okay, next we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I'm gonna put this in really good, but not quite there. Here's the thing. Sometimes there are books where there's just one element of the book that makes it really enjoyable for me, or there's like a scene in it that is very, like, it plays right into my tastes, right? I loved the coziness of this. I loved the imagery of Emily coming to this cabin and lighting a fire and having Shadow, her dog, with her. I liked the magic and the whimsy. It was a little academic the way that it's written. That's intentional, obviously, because it's called Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and Emily is a professor. I didn't really like Wendell, though. There was one thing he did in the book that I was like, ooh, okay. But it might be a new favorite. So I'm gonna like put it up here at the front because it has potential. What am I talking about? This is like one of the most popular books ever in the past few years. Next we have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. It was good. It was good. It was a bit like it was kind of a fever dream. T. Kingfisher's thing is taking classic fairy tales and putting a strange spin on them, or just making them more accessible to people who maybe feel more marginalized or underrepresented, I guess. I don't know if this is a retelling, but it's essentially about this girl who wants to like save her sister, so she has to perform these impossible tasks to do it, if I'm remembering correctly. I really like the main love interest. I don't remember his name. I almost never remember character names. Okay, we are getting down to the last like 4th, I think, of the books. Next we have Gothicana by Runix. I didn't hate this book nearly as much as it seems so many people did, but also this has surprisingly high ratings on Goodreads. Listen, I enjoyed it. It was good. Like, I know it's problematic. I know that the author, you know, kind of characterizes schizophrenia in a bad way. I know that the romance is a bit like, if this were real life, I'd be telling this man to fuck off. But I liked it. I don't know. Like, here's what I think I liked about it. It had a coziness element to it that I enjoyed. This is classified as a dark romance. I don't personally feel like it is. And then I loved how Runix talked about her relationship with her mom and how much she loved her mom and how supportive her mom was, and that like she gets to write a story like Gothicana. She feels supported in that, and I just really enjoyed that. This says that it's like Beauty and the Beast meets Dracula. I would very much disagree with that, but when I read that at the library, I was like, sign me up. Next we have Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. Again, this is the book that I was talking about with Alex E. Harrow that I loved. Now, I read this a year ago, so I don't really remember a ton about why I loved it, other than the fact that it is like a gothic romance in a lot of ways. I think it was beautifully written. It was a bit of a slow burn. I am going to put it in new favorite though. I need to reread it at some point, but I remember just like loving it at the time. Next we have Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed. This is going into new favorite. It's kind of, the only word I can think of when I think of this book is cold. And I think the reason is because it takes place in like 11 something, a long time ago. The castle's made of stone. It's in northern Scotland. Like, I feel cold when I think about this book. But I enjoyed the retelling. It is, however, not very faithful, in my opinion, to the original Macbeth by Shakespeare. The original Lady Macbeth, I think, is way more of a badass. It made her younger, and like, it made it like more of a typical downtrodden, controlled woman be like a badass, you know? Lady Macbeth, if there was one thing she didn't need, it was to be a badass, because she already is. But still, I loved what it was. You tell me dragons, Scotland, history, and Shakespeare, like, I'm there. Count me in. And witches. Okay, next we have Normal Rules Don't Apply by, I think it's Kate Atkinson. This was forgettable. I don't really remember anything that happens in it other than the very first story, which is about how there's this mass global event that if you are outside and you're caught up in the sun, like going out for a second, then all these people died. And this book is like seemingly unrelated stories that are somehow woven together by the end. Next we have Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This was really good, but not quite there. I loved this duology. It's one of my favorites. The first one though, I liked way better. It felt more cohesive. Like the first one you can say, this was a heist story. And the characters are very individualistic. They're very well written. The story was well written. The pacing was great. Very suspenseful. The second one is more like the aftermath of that. So it's not necessarily like, oh, this is a heist story. It's more about the fall of a kingdom, kind of, and how these characters deal with being vigilantes, I guess. It was sad, though. It was good. Okay, next we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is going into new favorite. This book had some very sad elements in it. There's a scene near the end involving one of the characters that, if you know, you know. I loved the game-making aspects of this. Clearly, there was a lot of research that was done. I loved the relationship between Sam and Sadie, the transcendence of it, the timelessness of it. I loved how there was this idea of multiple realities and choosing each other in every reality. So those are the bits that really spoke to me above everything else. Next we have House of Cotton by Monica Brashears. This book was bizarre. I remember at the time kind of like being turned off by it, but when I think about it now, it was fine. I think it was fine. I almost put it in good, but like it's very much like this author had a vision. She has a very distinctive voice. Parts of it are a bit unsettling, but if you're into that kind of thing, it's the kind of book that it's as if you would go to hear like slam poetry at an underground bar in New York. It's like that kind of book. Next we have Something in the Woods Loves You by Jared Anderson. Again, this is kind of like a memoir of how he helped to heal himself from depression, his journey with depression. I'm going to put this in really good, but not quite there. There was some beautiful prose in this. I love the philosophical take he took about depression and connection, being human. I loved the parallel that he set up between nature, the woods, and our lives. He had a lot of important things to say. That was a little wordy at times, but really a beautiful book, and Jared Anderson has clearly made a difference in so many people's lives. And the cover is stunning. That was originally what drew me in, and because I love trees, which maybe is a random thing to say. Next we have Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands by Heather Fawcett. This one was good. I didn't like it nearly as much as the first one. Heather Fawcett has a very formulaic way of writing that I wasn't aware of in the first book, because obviously the first book is like an introduction to this world and the characters and her writing style. But the second one followed a very similar pattern. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this one doesn't hit as much as the first one. There were more characters in the second book that I was like, all right, I guess you need to be here for various reasons. Wasn't as cozy as the first one. And honestly, I don't remember much of it, but it was good. Next we have A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Oh, okay. Here's my deal with this book. Similar with The Mountain Is You, I loved watching Nesta climb the mountain, so to speak. That was like the dedication in this book. I loved watching her grow and become stronger. It really inspired me to want to tackle my own issues and to be strong and to train again and like all this stuff. The book itself, though, I thought was a little all over the place. This one is the first one in the series that is marketed as adult, so there is a lot more sex scenes in it. Some of them were good. Other scenes were like, okay, like it's not that grand. Like I don't know. I'm gonna put this in fine. I think it was fine. This one I would say is like probably my third or fourth favorite in the series, if I'm being honest. But again, like there were parts of this that really did speak to me. So it's either good or fine. Okay, next we have What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This was really good, but not quite there yet. This is my favorite T. Kingfisher book out of all the ones I've read so far. And T. Kingfisher was one of my most read authors in 2024. I think I read like 5 books by her, 4 books. But this one is book 2. It's a series. I don't remember what it's called. But this one was creepy. It involved the woods. It involved nightmares and dreams. And it was shorter, which I liked. I think T. Kingfisher is a really good novella writer as well. But this one was also fun, though. So it wasn't just creepy. It wasn't just like, ugh, that's unsettling. And the cover is just stunning. I mean, what a statement. A rotting horse on a red background, like, drew me in immediately. Okay, and we're back. My camera needed a little break because he was a little hot. This is gonna be a monster to edit. Anyway, okay, back to it. So we have Dawn Shard by Brandon Sanderson. I don't remember this much. I just remember there was a ship involved, and anytime there's a ship in a story, I'm happy. So I'm gonna put it in good because I remember liking it, but I also don't remember anything that really happened in it. Okay, now we have quite the conversation starter next, Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, of course. How could I forget? Okay, listen. This book did not disgust me in the way that I wanted to like clutch my pearls and like throw it across the room and be like, oh, get it away from me. What is this? Like, I would not put it in what is this? Nor would I put it in forgettable, because this book is definitely not forgettable. Nor would I put it in fine or good or any of these this book transcends categorization. I don't know where to put it. I think it is amazing when people can explore taboos and things that scare them, curiosities through the arts, through writing. That is so important. This, though, had some things in it that I'm like, people are into that. Okay, interesting. Not for me, but you do you. I can't put it in any other category but what is this? So I'm gonna have to put it there. If you know, you know. If you've read this experience, let me know in the comments. Okay, next we have Inland by Gerald Murnane. I think that's how you say his name. This was fine. I remember when I started reading it, I really, really liked it. I think he has such a unique way of communicating his thoughts that like I aspire to have, but if I had to say the point of this book, I could not tell you. It's basically a collection of essays, I think, about this man who's a writer. It was fine. I have a copy of it. I did tab it, so I was into it at the time, but now thinking back on it, I'm like, I don't know. Next we have Melissa Broder. The story surrounding this book is much more interesting in my opinion than the story itself. I do remember really liking it though. I found this book at the airport before I was flying to Dallas. The author was there. She was signing copies, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick it up. And it sounds interesting. It's about grief in part, and it's sort of like a portal story too. Like the main character finds an entrance to something through a cactus. It was very unique. It kind of reminds me of like a Wes Anderson film. I'm gonna put it in good. But the lore surrounding it, like I read this entire thing on the plane from Dallas to London. So soaring above the ocean at 35,000 feet, reading this with a glass of wine in a plastic cup, you know, the vibes were there. Next we have Kabbalistic Astrology. This, again, hard to rank. I'm just gonna put it in good because it was good and it's interesting. It's about Kabbalah and astrology and how they intersect. The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. This is absolutely a new favorite. Again, feels like a book that was written for me. It's about this ministry that takes people in history who are about to die and brings them forward in time to see how they interact with the world around them. And in this, they bring forward Commander Gore, who was a part of the Franklin expedition, which was a real doomed expedition that disappeared in the 1800s. If you've seen The Terror on AMC or read, it's on Netflix now, actually. Watch it, please. It's so good. It's based on the book by Dan Simmons. So I immediately knew who Graham Gore was. This is like a bunch of genres in a trench coat. It's like workplace comedy, drama, thriller, romance. It's got it all. A lot of people don't like that. They felt it was scattered, but I loved the romance in this. Probably because I had a crush on the actor who played Commander Gore in The Terror, but like, so good. I'm not a huge sci-fi reader, but this was probably my favorite sci-fi book that I've read. Okay, next we have The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I'm putting this in new favorite. I know that this has low ratings on Goodreads, but I thought it was so well written. It had the vibes. It takes place in upstate New York during a snowstorm in this opulent mansion that's owned by this writer, and she brought these writers together for them to write their own story, and whichever one she likes the best, she'll help them promote it, and shit hits the fan. It's a thriller. I cannot wait to read more of Julia Bartz's writing. I am not a thriller girly. I don't really read them very much, but I did read this one and I did really love it. Next we have Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 in the Stormlight Archives. I'm going to put this in good. I enjoyed it, but Oathbringer is that, you know, Oathbringer's the one for me. And then we have Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This was fine. It's kind of like And Then There Were None, like a retelling of that. I don't know. That's all I have to say about it. It's a thriller. Again, not really my thing. I remember, this actually gave me a nightmare one night after I read it. And if a book gives me a nightmare, sometimes that's like, ooh, kind of like that. Other times I'm like, okay, I probably shouldn't be reading this. Okay, next we have Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. This is book 4 in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. This is a new favorite. I loved this book and I was so surprised by it because this is young adult. It's gory. It's about like investigations that these two main characters, Audrey Rose Wadsworth and Thomas Cresswell, they perform autopsies on people who've been murdered. It takes place in the 1800s. I was so surprised by how much I loved this, and by the time I finished it, I was sad that the series was over, and I'm contemplating ordering my own box set because I really enjoyed this quite a lot. Next we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This was fine. I don't really want to elaborate on it too much. It was fine. I think the magic was underutilized. It was well written. That's all I'm gonna say about it though. Okay. Last book is Ledge by Stacey McEwen. I listened to this on audio. I got very bored with it very quickly. This writer clearly is a fan of ACOTAR and wanted to write something that was similar. And that's great. You know, that's kind of the heart of creativity. We human beings like to take things and rehash them and tell the story again. But this was fine. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in fine because I do remember bits of it. This is part of a series. I won't be reading the rest of it. I think this writer was or is a TikTok sensation, and that allowed her to write a book, which is amazing. So you go, girl. Love that for you. I hate that I ended the tier ranking on this book. Let's just pretend that I ended with talking about, I don't know, The Angel's Game or Ministry of Time or something. But this is my final tier ranking. As we can see, there's only 3 books in Where Have You Been All My Life. I think that is perfect though. I think this tier loses its importance if it's just full of books. So 3 feels great for 2024. But then new favorite, I still have 14 books in this tier. So for me, 2024 was a great reading year. I've been hearing that so many people didn't have a good reading year. I had a great year. The most populated tier is the good tier, which it seems about right. And then forgettable and what is this have the same amount, 5 each. If I had to reorder this last tier, I would put All by Myself at the end. And yeah, this feels good. This feels good. And then yeah, I'm not gonna order any of the other tiers though. Anyway, I wanna thank you so much for watching this video. I love doing tier rankings. Let me know down below if there's anything else you want me to tier rank. I am in my content era. Don't forget to check out the links in the description if you want to connect with me on other socials. What were your favorite books of 2024? What are you planning to read in the coming year? Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you know when I'll be posting next. And that's all I have for you today. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.